Hello and welcome back. You can see the picture on the bottom right corner there is the new capacitor discharge unit I've got fitted. And you can see it has a ready light, which is quite interesting. It's got a very fast recharge, and it really does give these double points quite a snap. Just look at that. And then we'll snap that back again. And then the other point with the switch which controls the colour light signals, it's made a big improvement on that, I think. A really nice throw there. Now we'll just have a look at this interesting group of models which showed up in the early 1970s, principally for the Australian market, I think. A bright orange single-ended diesel and mail coach there. The mail coach does tend to catch the centreboard of the elevated section here, just where the sidewalls are, the bit that sits between the tracks. The mechanism that hangs down is a little bit low, and it also catches as it goes onto the suspension bridge and off again, so we will hear that click. They are a terrific colour, aren't they? Look how shiny those coaches are. The earlier silver and red transcontinental coaches were just moulded in grey plastic, but these are sprayed up in very shiny silver, and they really do look for business. You can see the old headlight there is a bit dim, but then we are running rather slowly here today, but it does look terrific, doesn't it? A lovely sound as well. Just look at the shine on those as they go around there. And then through points number 5 there. Now they did open beautifully with a nice click there. Capacitor discharge unit really doing its job. I'm really glad I switched that over. And the coaches are very well behaved coming through there, aren't they? I did have a couple of derailments when I was trying this earlier. The coaches are rather light. And just look at this pickup. Absolutely superb. And then through points 4 there. And off back around the layout. Coming back through points number 5. Nice and smoothly. And again, no derailments this time. Just look at this drop off. Absolutely effortless. Really wonderful.
So I've just got a pair of points set up, just like a crossover on the layout there, and we're wired straight to the old P5 here, to the 15 volt AC outlet there on the back. So I haven't got a capacitor discharge unit in this, so we just see how it runs without one. And we'll just listen to this. So we hear that hum there. So that is really creating quite a noise, isn't it? And back again. And there we go, and we'll switch the other way. And back again. So you do get quite a hum on that, don't you? As I say, it is a bit more reliable with a single point, but it is quite a strain on these old heavy points. So I'll just wire it up with the old discharge unit in it, and we'll see the difference. So here we've got the discharge unit I took off the layout, and I've replaced it with the extra heavy duty one, as we saw a little bit earlier. So it's just taking its feed from the P5 with these fly leads directly off the back, and it's just wired into the circuit. If you have a look at the diagram on the right there, it is very simple to wire in, and it really isn't difficult at all. So we'll just pop that down, and then we'll pick up the switch and we'll give that a go. That really is quite a nice snap, isn't it? So not all Super 4 points are equal. Some are heavier than others. This pair is quite a nice pair. So the extra heavy duty one has really given me a bit more of a punch, and especially for the old colour light signal switch I'm using and planning to put another one in. It's going to give a real advantage. So we'll just snap that back. So that is quite nice, isn't it? There's barely a hum on them. There is almost a hum, but nothing like before. So we'll just try that again. There we go. It really is a snap, isn't it? I'm just going to take the cover off this switch, and I think some of the hum comes from the type of switch we're using here, because it can be best described as quite woolly, really. It's very basic inside these switches. We'll just put that down. There we go. We'll just put the power back onto it. You see, it really is just these two contacts here. We'll just switch that across. Ooh, I've got my hand in the way. Let's see if we can get that out of the way, and then back. So I think the hum comes from passing across those. So improvements could be made by using a micro switch. You get a much more positive throw from those. On my older layout, I did have micro switches, and they really were nice to use. I don't know, just these sort of seem to fit in with the layout. And also the benefit of using the old discharge unit is you don't get this happening by accident. You don't burn out the point motors, so that could be a bit of a fire hazard, couldn't it? If you've got a switch malfunctioning, you've got constant current to the coils and they just overheat, and it could be quite a nasty thing, couldn't it? And I thought we might as well quickly have a look at how they throw when you've got the micro switch in. So I've just swapped the switches over, and we'll give this a go. So that is quite a snap, isn't it? So it's a very positive throw. So there's no woolly connections like in these old triangle switches. So I think probably next time I may well go for these, because they are just so nice to work with. Listen to that. And again. So we'll just have a swift look at these micro switches, or toggle switches they're sometimes called. Now these are just some that I harvested off a much older layout and done about 5 or 6 years ago, and I use them to control all the aspects of the railway, isolating tracks, coloured light signals and the electric point motors. Somebody pointed out that in a video I'd done a couple of weeks ago, I'd perhaps chosen the wrong switch for the job, and I'd chosen one of these which will control the points, but you have to remember to center it. It doesn't center automatically, so it could cause continuous flow of current, which could cause one or both of the coils to burn out in this switch, this point motor, sorry. So I'll just put that down. It could also cause significant damage if you were using a discharge unit. So this has applications, so we can center off like that, but really, if you want to control your points, the best switch is one that centers automatically, like this one here. So this is on, off, and it centers each time, so you don't have to remember to center it. I've got one set up here with this colour light signal here on the left. So it only remains on as long as I keep my finger pressed on the button, which is a great way of protecting the old discharge unit and the point motor. So the switch I did use just gives continuous current. So just pop that one out of the way. And here we've got the continuous red light. But if I put it in the off position, we get off. And then on in the other direction, we get the old green lamp on. So that might have applications, although perhaps not the best switch if you just want red or green continuously. The better switch for that would be this one, which is an on-on switch. It has no off function. If it's wired up to use all 3 points on the switch here, you can get this to happen with your coloured light signals. So red to green, and it stays on. There's no off position like this switch here. So there we go. We've got green, off, and on. So it's a really great selection of switches you can do many things with. So with a switch which you can just switch from one side to the other like that, you can control this light, like that. Works really well. If you just use the one side of the switch, for instance, you could just control an old isolating track like I've done there. So you can just go off, no power flowing, and then you can return the current through the isolating track. That's what that one came from. It's got the old pin connectors there. So different switches do different jobs. As I say, I think next time I build a layout, I'm probably going to revert back to these because they're simpler to use. However, I have found the advantage of these black point switches from trying is that if you set them all up, you can perhaps have all curved when they're set forward, or all your points straight when they're set backwards. So it's an easy way of looking at the switches and knowing how you've got the old railway set up. Sometimes you just simply forget. Now the other lights, the other switches they have is this yellow one here, which could be used to control the old colour light signal, just like we see this one throwing here from red to green. And we can just do the same with that, so it stays locked or latched in that position, and that would change the colour of the light. Nice and simple. And the green switch could be used for switching things on and off, or controlling an isolating track, so you could have on or off depending which way you've got these set. So very simple switch.
And again, the other switch from Triangle Hornby was the old red one, or Triangle Railways. This one was used primarily, I think, for the electric level crossing. So as long as you had it pushed forward, current would flow and control the crossing, but as soon as you let go, it automatically switches off to try and prevent the older electric crossing from becoming damaged. So great looking thing. I don't have one of these on the layout at the moment. I do have the crossing, but we'll have a look at that at another time. We'll have a look at the model in a second, but firstly, let's look at page 8 and 9 from the 1972 catalogue. And we can see this great looking set here, featuring this locomotive, the mail coach, and these wonderful silver and red transcontinental coaches. And I think this appeared just for the 1 year in the UK, and it's RS101A, the Overlander set. It looks terrific, doesn't it? I believe it was also marketed in Australia, and it could also have been called the R590 set as well. And there was another set containing some of these models, but without the mail coach, and it was the Streamliner set, and that was RS101, I believe, from 1971. But it's an odd model. I don't believe it was ever listed separately as an item in the catalogue here in the UK. Let's have a swift look. It's very similar to R55, the silver single-ended diesel we saw a couple of weeks ago. These stripes are almost embossed into the old plastic work there, and then sprayed up in white by the looks of it, or heat printed in white, I'm not quite sure. Got these great rivets. The light sits behind there. Metal horns. I've got the rivets in the windows down the side, and that wonderful word transcontinental. It really is in quite tidy condition when we look around it. We'll just have a look at the old other side here. And so there's hardly a mark on it. One slight worry about it is the skirt at the front. It does seem to sort of lift up like that. On the earlier model I have, it just sort of stays in place, so maybe there's a little clip missing off that. I'll have to have a look. So we've got the old metal motor bogie here. This is the later style motor bogie. So we'll have a look at the underside of it there. And we've got smooth wheels. They're quite shiny, aren't they? And I believe they are quite fine scale flanges on here for the System 6 track of the time. It is a very, very, very smooth running model, this. We'll just look a bit further down here. And we've got cropped axles, and we've got plastic sleeved wheels on those. They're nice and free running. And D-shaped coupling on the back. So I've just taken the body off the chassis, and again it's got two securing screws, just like R55, so we'll just pop that down. Now I believe the catalogue number for this model was R0550, although I'm not entirely sure it was ever listed individually as a model available, either here in the UK or in Australia. I'm not entirely sure on that point. Perhaps if somebody knows, they could let me know. We'll just have a swift look on the inside here. If we look closely here, it still does have Triang's name, and it's got R55, R57, made in England. R57 would have been the dummy unit back in the earlier silver model. You can see it's extensively been painted in black on the inside here. You can see it does have the metal horns, and the glazing unit just held in there. It's just clipped into place. And I believe there is a difference in the moulding between this and R55, and it's lost two little reinforcing parts here in the plastic moulding on the front of the cab there. Let's have a quick look around there. A little bit of overspray on the old black paint, but again in fairly tidy condition. We'll just pop that down. We'll just have a look at the chassis. So unlike the early R55 we saw a couple of weeks ago, this one does have the later style motor bogie in it. It is just that little bit more powerful, and certainly much quieter to run. Somebody has had a go at this. It seems to have been rewired at some point. There's a lot of quite messy soldering in there, but the motor really does run quite beautifully in this model. Let's see the old lighting unit at the front there. Somebody's soldered the bulb into place there. You can see that skirt just lifts up there. On the early R55, that seems to stay clipped into place. I'm not quite sure about that. So the old heavy metal chassis, the old, what I think is a battery box there, got Triang's name on it, made in England. The old bogie at the back there, made out of plastic, got cropped axles there, steel axles, sleeved wheels, nice and free running. There we go, these little tabs here, they just poke straight through the back of the plastic bodywork to help secure it. So we'll just put that back together again now, and we can see that livery is very, very similar in colour. The colour used on that mail coach, isn't it? So these single-ended diesels were turned out in a number of liveries over the years. So we'll just pop that down and have a very swift look at the mail coach. Now, I don't have a catalogue number for the mail coach. It seems to have been available in the early 70s. I'm not sure if it was only available in sets. But if anybody has any information on that, I'd really like to know. So it's got a silver roof. It's definitely seen some action, hasn't it? Been in and out of the toy box, I imagine. And that wonderful lettering on the side there, almost the height of the model. A great looking thing. So it is basically the same mould as the earlier transcontinental mail coaches, which were turned out in red and blue and earlier in maroon. You can see it's got the similar detail on the ends. Now, it does have plastic wheels fitted. They're moulded in one, axle and wheel together, and it is quite light on the track. I have added weight. It did keep jumping off on the mail ramp, so I have added some additional weight to prevent that from happening, but otherwise it performs quite well. These later Mark II transcontinental coaches, which were released in the early 70s, seem to have the red band above the windows. Well, you see the earlier ones definitely had the band running along the window line, and just transcontinental in black above that. This is the page 23 from the 1962 catalogue. Terrific, isn't it? So we'll just close that up, and we'll have a look at the coaches themselves. So we've got an earlier one here, an earlier Mark II transcontinental coach with the red window band. We'll just have a look at that in conjunction with the other one. Now, the earlier ones were moulded in grey plastic, and they were just the colour of the grey plastic, whereas these later ones look to have been moulded in grey plastic and then sprayed up in bright silver. We'll just put this one down. So they're quite smart looking things. You can see we do have seating, and they are quite delicate. I don't like to sort of try and clean these too much because the paint just tends to rub off. You can see that wonderful transcontinental name above the windows there. Lovely detail on them. Let's look at the ends of those. I think they do look rather impressive as a rake. Now, I don't have the dyno that goes with these. I've just got 3 of these passenger coaches, R.0450, and I've got a single observation, R.441. I believe the dyno was R.443, but I've yet to get hold of one of those. So we'll just pop that down and we'll have a look at the observation. It really is quite a special thing. I think the observation thing in this range of coaches, I've always been quite impressed with it. Just look at that observation window in the top there with all that seating. That really is quite smart. And we've got that curved end to look at the back where you've been. I think that's really, really terrific. Again, very similar end detail there. So we'll just turn that around and have a look at the other side. We'll just have a look on the underside. Now, unlike the earlier transcontinental coaches, these ones do have pinpoint metal axles with plastic wheels. Just have a swift look at that. They've still got Triang's name on the bottom there and made in England. Just have a swift look along there. So that bogie detail is quite quite nice. There's quite a lot going on there, and quite a bit of underframe detail. Really are quite smart things. Just time for one last charge around the layout there. We'll turn up the power and get that headlamp to glow a little. Storming into the third radius curve, just gathering a bit of speed for the old incline now. Just look at it go. Tiniest bit of wheel slip as we go into the second radius curve at the top there, and off round towards the old suspension bridge. And I think that's probably it for this week, but if you look back again next time, we'll have something else interesting to look at. Thanks for watching. Goodbye now.